In 2014, psychologists conducted an experiment that revealed a hidden glitch in human nature. They placed people in an empty, sterile room for 15 minutes with absolutely nothing to do. No phones, no books, no distractions. The only item in the room was a single button that would deliver a painful electric shock. This chart shows the counterintuitive statistical outcome of that experiment. Even though participants previously stated they would gladly pay money to avoid being shocked, 67% of the men and 25% of the women voluntarily shocked themselves when left alone in the silence. The researchers concluded that people prefer physical pain over the act of thinking. We are biologically terrified of being alone with our own thoughts. This biological fear is the specific vulnerability that modern software engineers weaponized. When you realize you just lost 45 minutes staring at a glowing screen, you probably diagnose yourself with a lack of discipline. You think you're lazy or that your willpower is broken. But the science shows that willpower has almost nothing to do with it. When left completely alone, the human mind naturally drifts toward a state psychologists call psychic entropy. Psychic entropy is the mind's natural tendency to scan for problems, anxieties, and unresolved grudges when it lacks an external focus. Left to its own devices, your brain doesn't relax, it panics. Your smartphone functions as a highly engineered psychological painkiller for this state. We dive into the endlessly replenishing content of the infinity pool to actively numb the subtle, creeping pain of existing in our own minds. But why do we use social media specifically to numb ourselves? Why do we care so deeply about the opinions of strangers on the internet? To answer that, we have to look at our subconscious programming. In ancient human tribes, losing your social standing meant you were exiled from the group, which guaranteed starvation. Evolution programmed our brains to treat social approval as an essential nutrient, like oxygen or water. Author Will Storr notes that humans operate using a subconscious status detection system. A status detection system is a neurological network that constantly evaluates our social hierarchy to ensure we remain safely integrated within the tribe. When you try to ignore a notification, the emotional center of your brain, the amygdala, registers a threat. The amygdala is an almond-shaped cluster of neurons responsible for processing fear and immediate survival instincts. It views a lack of likes as a survival-level threat of tribal exile. Resisting a notification requires fighting millions of years of evolutionary survival programming. Tech companies exploit your brain's extreme hunger for energy using the law of least effort. The law of least effort is a psychological principle stating that biological organisms will naturally default to the action requiring the lowest energy expenditure. In the past, reading a book or watching a movie had natural stopping points, the end of a chapter or the rolling of credits. These stopping points acted as brakes, giving your brain a moment of friction to wake up and ask if it wanted to keep going. Modern developers practice addition by subtraction, where they ruthlessly remove all of that friction. They autoplay the next video and make feeds infinite, ripping the brakes out of the vehicle. This diagram illustrates how developers combine a frictionless environment with a variable reward. This unpredictability causes the brain to constantly spike with dopamine in anticipation. Because you never know when you'll see an exciting post, you keep scrolling. You're trapped on a hedonic treadmill, forever searching, never truly satisfied. Beating an engineered system requires more than simple willpower. Relying on willpower is like trying to force water through a bent garden hose. The pressure is exhausting and unsustainable. Instead, redesign your environment using Ulysses Pacts. A Ulysses Pact is a digital pre-commitment, like a website blocker or logging out of your accounts. that ties your hands so you cannot give in to temptation when your willpower is low. These tools artificially reintroduce the friction that tech companies stole from you. Next, reframe your urges. When you feel the phantom itch to check your phone, recognize it as an internal trigger. An internal trigger is an uncomfortable emotional state, like boredom or anxiety, that prompts you to subconsciously seek out a distraction. Adding just 10 seconds of friction to the process of opening an app gives your rational brain the vital moment it needs to wake up from autopilot. When you allow automated systems and algorithms to direct your attention, your brain suffers from cognitive tunneling. Cognitive tunneling is a mental state where you lock intensely onto a glowing screen, causing the rest of your actual life, your relationships, your ambitions, and your quiet moments of peace to fade into the darkness. Science writer Winifred Gallagher realized that who you are, your thoughts, feelings, and actions, is the sum of what you consistently focus on. Time is the only currency you actually possess. Sitting alone in a quiet room with your own thoughts proves that the digital painkiller is unnecessary for survival. Take back your attention. When you control your attention, you control your reality. Thanks for joining us.